was primarily about sustainability and resilience. And we had a workshop on the 25th anniversary of Hurricane Andrew. At that, we've been working, and I've been working with Esri and some of their partners on some sea level rise initiatives, modeling 3D and coming out with an application a few months ago that's capable of showing what levels of sea level rise and or storm surge could have upon the city. Well, a couple of weeks ago we got to experience that firsthand, unfortunately, with Hurricane Irma. So we put that application into play, and also in the 60 hours I was in the Emergency Operations Center, we put out about 5 or 6 applications using our GIS software that gave our first responders and other personnel, operational personnel in the city, the capability to start collecting data as soon as it was safe to go out after the storm. And we also were using a lot of the sensors we have throughout the city for wind and things of that nature to determine when it was safe to continue to dispatch from 911 or to stop. And so we could see different parts of the city where we could continue dispatching or not. And obviously we need a lot more work in that area, and that's kind of one of our main focuses in Smart Cities initially.
Great. Well, thank you for being here, given all you've been doing.
In this, I'll talk about the seminal events. The 2 seminal events is that Austin applied for the U.S. Department of Transportation Smart Cities grant. We didn't win. Some city in Ohio won that. We came in second, or we can say we came in second. But there was a very, it was a focusing event. It brought in a number of departments: energy, transportation, the mayor, our executive staff, and it made smartness real to a lot of people inside the government, as well as a little bit outside the community. And smartness became something important to the policymakers and the executives, rather than this abstract buzzword they keep hearing about. The other event was the Smart City Challenge Grant, and that had a different effect. We're not using it the way we thought, and the effect was different than I think we had anticipated. The effect was on the community, because we went in with the community to apply for the grant. We won the grant, and the community celebrated. It was really a big event, much bigger for the community than it was internally. It was, for some folks internally, it was another burden, a thing we have to do, right? And so what we also learned in that process is that it was better for our community to be the leader in.
Once you start a big project, right? Well, what do we do on the government side, right? We start gathering requirements, right? And we probably hire a company because we can't do it ourselves, so we're gathering all these requirements, right? And we wrap them up in a big fat RFP. This guy's shaking his head. You've seen him, right? We put this big fat RFP out there, right? And then you on your side, you probably have teams of people that look through these, and your first thing is, why did they put all these damn stupid requirements in here? How can I meet these, right? So for us, for a big city, right, we'll put out an RFP, it will have 600 to well over 1,000 requirements. And what do we issue to do, right? Now, if we're good, we'll put them all in a matrix at the end, right? And we'll say, here's the requirement, software must do this, it must do this, it must do this, and you have comply, not comply, and then you have the little exception thing over there, which you have to explain why it won't make it, right? So you have teams of people that are answering this, right? Now, on our side, and I'm sure you know this, we put out a big RFP. We might get a dozen responses, maybe more, maybe 15 responses, and they're all books like this, right? We have an evaluation committee, okay? The evaluation committee, those people will have full-time jobs. Now, they're expected to read all those books, and they're supposed to understand what's in all those books, and they're supposed to keep them straight what's in all those books. But you kind of know they're not really reading those books, right? They're not reading books. So what we decided to do is kind of make the process more like what really happens in real life. We're not issuing RFPs up front anymore. For even the biggest project, we're issuing RFIs. And right now, I have 3 out there, maybe 4 out there. I have 4 RFIs out there for software. And what it's going to do is point me to the software. I have 5 software resellers on contract in the city of Philadelphia. How do you get on contract? You agree to the terms and conditions. I'm going to put, and when we identify the software, what I will do is I'll put it up to the software resellers and say, tell me what it's going to cost. Go out and get it for me, right? What am I really doing, right? I'm pushing my users to COTS solutions. What has gotten us in so much trouble over the years is those 600,000 requirements, they're pushing people to a customized solution which you can't have, which you can't do. And the customized solutions, and we have a ton of them in the city of Philadelphia, we can't upgrade them. We're stuck. We're stuck in a time warp here with some of this stuff. I have one system over police I've been trying to upgrade for 2 years. It has so much custom code in it. It's a one-off. And we're trying to get away from that. So we are going to identify software products using an RFI, and then we're going to use an RFP to implement that software. What's the RFP going to have in it? It's going to be a much different RFP than you're used to seeing. It's going to say, we want you to implement this software. Here's the training requirements. Here's the interface requirements. And it'll be some other gobbledygook in here that the city lawyers put in, right? But pretty much, that's going to be it. Now, I have 3 of these out there, maybe 4 out there now. We haven't gotten through the process. But right now, a mid to high level difficult project from start of RFP to contract signing is 18 to 25 months, right? 18 months to over 2 years. And then after that, you have 18 months to 24 months to implement the project. We think we can cut at least a third off the time by doing this and by forcing our users into COTS products as much as possible. Because we're all going there, guys. You can see the big guys, Microsoft, SAP, Oracle, they're all going to the cloud. They want you to use cloud software, and you can't have 25 versions of the software. They're not going to support them. They're only going to support one. So we might as well get used to going to COTS, because that's where we're all going to go. So if you're a company out there and you think I'm crazy, you can tell me afterwards, say, this is a crazy idea. I won't be offended. I've been told I'm crazy before. So you're happy to tell me, but I'm looking for, I have run this by a number of our vendors, and they feel it will be easier on their end as well as easier on our end, especially if I can push people into COTS solutions, which is what I'm trying to do.
So to me, when you sit there and try to figure out what makes a city smart, right? Because smart cities is a rough term, right? It's somewhat of a commercial term, not necessarily a civic term. But when you're a mayor, you try to figure out how do I, as a city, become smart? I can put the shiny objects out there and show everybody that I'm smart, or actually I can try to do problem identification. So the mayor Ginther identified that in the Linden neighborhood, they had babies dying 4 times the national average. And why? Because the OBGYN service providers had abandoned the neighborhood, and therefore the mothers and expecting mothers had to take 2 buses, and the culture developed of not actually getting the medical care that they needed, and so they had the infant mortality issue. And so the mayor then applied the technology and innovation that's out there to the problem. So you take the problem, then the innovation and technology to the problem. And to me, the problem identification within cities are often built around access, displacement, and affordability. And how can mobility play into that space, right? How can mobility be actually one of the solutions instead of one of the blocks to solving those problems? And those are some of those are identified. But I think cities around the country are trying to use smart cities technology as a tool to try to solve those problems.
Dramatic societal change, and this is what cities all around the world are experiencing. And this dramatic change is caused by both a rapid change in technology, but also urbanization, and all of that is changing how we work, how we live, who we interact with, how we buy. And this is dramatic, and this is something that we have not seen in prior civilizations. Now, how to address this is something that we are very interested in. If you look at many cities, they are still experimenting with the best model for securing financing, for rolling out projects. Again, there's a bit of an opportunity cost. So which project do you pick first? Which project do you pick later? So everyone is struggling with that. And I think what we need to do we and the Smart Cities Council and everyone who's interested in advancing smart cities is codify a bit the best practices. And those best practices would be, the best technology that's been used for an application, but also the best financing mechanisms, the best contractual language that allow these projects to roll out. And I think we're lacking here. I think if you were to look for a place that has a codified best practice, the same way, for instance, looking back 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when infrastructure public-private partnerships were being launched, the contracts, the legal documentation, the performance measures, all of that were codified by many governments, and you could actually access their database and see what worked, what did not work. I think